I'm Dr. Tasia White, and you're listening to Things My Boss Never Told Me. Hello, and welcome to episode number 6 of Things My Boss Never Told Me. I am your gracious host, Dr. Tasia White, and for this episode, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. So it wasn't until after I completed episode number 5 that I realized the holidays are coming up. And so the month of December is probably going to be a little bit busy for me with all of the traveling and stuff that I'll be doing, but also it's the month of my birthday, and so there's a lot to celebrate. And so rather than worry about getting my episodes done, I decided this would be a perfect time for us to take a mid-season break. And, given where we left things with episode number 5, it all seemed to work out pretty well anyway. However, I did want to use this as an opportunity to share a few things. So first and foremost, I wanted to apologize for the sound quality of episode number 5. I realized it was not my best. I guess that's part of the learning that I'm doing with this whole podcasting, is just understanding that I have to make sure I'm using my microphone properly in order to convey my message. And it wasn't until my editor actually pointed out to me and I was like, oh yeah, I guess maybe that is what the problem was. And so that was the lesson I took from recording the last episode. And part of the reason why I want to apologize for the sound quality is because I really pride myself on being professional and providing high quality service, whether it be to my clients or to all of you listening. And I recognize that that last episode was not my best. I'm thinking of some different creative ways to share that content with all of you because I definitely think that it's important for you to have in your leadership toolbox. However, once I've determined the best way to do so, I will be sure to let you know. So I wanted to take this opportunity just to briefly highlight the key points of episode number 5. If you remember, the topic was owning our leadership presence. And in that episode, I highlighted 3 key components: knowing ourselves, demonstrating our leadership presence, and the third was participating in ongoing assessment and growth. With the first element, knowing ourselves, I highlighted 3 steps. Step 1, understanding our values. Step 2, understanding our strength. And step 3, knowing our intentions. And for each of them, I provided some info and resources to help us identify what those are. And if you go to my website, I did find the video that breaks down how to go about discovering your own values. The second resource that I discussed was utilizing Gallup's Clifton Strengths Assessment to help me identify what my strengths were. And so feel free to check out both of those resources on my website. Then, in terms of understanding our intentions, I referred back to episode number 2, where I talked about the significance of knowing what our intentions are in the leadership roles or management roles that we're in. And so in that first phase of knowing ourselves, doing that inner work of understanding who we are at our core and sewing the pieces together so that we understand what it is that we want to convey as leaders. So the idea is to understand our values, connect our values to our strengths, and then connecting both values and strengths to our intentions. Then, in the second phase, demonstrating our leadership presence, I talked about 2 different ways that we go about doing this: how we verbally communicate our leadership presence and how we demonstrate our leadership presence in nonverbal ways. So in terms of verbally communicating that information, I talked about setting boundaries and expectations and sharing those up front with the teams that we're leading. And then in terms of the nonverbal, I talked about little subtle ways to demonstrate that behavior for your team. And the idea is that whatever it is that you are presenting to your team, whether it's verbal or nonverbal, it should be consistent with the first element. So whatever it is that you identify as a value, a strength, and an intention, it should be consistent with what you demonstrate to your team verbally and non-verbally. And so consistency is key with those first 2 elements. And then the third element, participating in continual growth and development opportunities, I talked about participating in activities that help us to reinforce our values, or at the very least help us to assess whether or not our values are still relevant as we move about in this leadership journey. And then the second, participating in activities that help us to strengthen or enhance the qualities that we already possess, or to add qualities that we maybe admire in other individuals. And so either way, not staying stuck in one particular way. As much as we may want to stay the same, the people around us may not. And so we have to find ways to participating in continual growth and development is an opportunity for us to keep up with the changing world around us. And so those were the main components of episode number 5. Now, I'm sure you may be wondering, so what can I anticipate with the second half of season 1? Well, let me tell you. I plan to spend 2 episodes talking about team essentials, and I felt like it was important to break it down into 2 separate episodes because there is a lot to cover. And I will essentially be discussing what I have identified as 6 essential steps for creating a cohesive team dynamic. And these are things that I've learned in terms of my academics, but also things that I've seen in my own development of teams. So, because of how vast the topic is, I really felt like it was important to break it down into 2 separate episodes. Otherwise, you would be listening to me for a very long time. Sound good? Great. So, after we cover team essentials, I'm going to focus on team development and team bonding, and really focusing on the fun side of team development and bonding. So I feel like team essentials, it's very structured and just understanding the foundation of team dynamics, but team development and bonding is focusing more on the fun side. I don't know how else to describe it, to be honest, but the focus for that particular episode is going to be on just having fun with our teams, because I think sometimes we can forget that fun can be a motivator in work environments. So understanding the right kind of fun and how to balance that is much of what I will cover in that episode. And then the other topics I want to make sure I cover are how to make our employees shine, performance assessment feedback, and teachable moments. And last but not least, change leadership. If you remember back in episode number 1, those were topics that I promised I would cover. And so I'm going to make sure that I deliver on that. So when we come back, that's what you can look forward to as we move forward in season 1. Now, I'm sure many of you are going to miss hearing my voice over the next month, right? I'm just kidding. But I did at least want to provide you with some other resources that I have available so that we can continue to stay in the loop and stay connected, right? Because a month is a really long time. And so I don't want to lose you in your interest. So I have a couple of places that we can stay connected. So first, if you're listening to this on one of the podcast platforms like Apple Podcast or Spotify, I actually have a YouTube channel where I also put my podcast. And so if you haven't already, check out my YouTube channel, which is Vonni Coaching and Consulting, LLC. And you can see not only these episodes, but also some of the other content that I put out there, including my morning message series. So not only do I focus on leadership, I also focus on other areas of life that really challenges us to think outside of the box. So if you think that's something that you might be interested in, please make sure you check out my YouTube channel. And on my YouTube channel, I will also be sharing some highlights from things my boss never told me. So really chopping up the episodes and focusing on the key points. So if that's something that you think would be helpful for you in terms of revisiting certain topics and ideas, definitely check out my YouTube channel. Another way we can stay connected is follow me on Instagram. So I have an Instagram where I share a lot of inspirational kind of content to help encourage people to think outside of the box, to live authentically, to live out loud, because those are the things that I truly value. My Instagram handle is at Dr. Tasia White. And if you happen to be on Instagram on December 12th, make sure you wish me a happy birthday. I would greatly appreciate that. Finally, if you haven't done so already, visit my website, www.vonniconsulting.com. And on there, you will find information about some of the other services that I provide. You will also find this section I have specifically reserved for this podcast, where you can find links to all of the resources that I reference in each of the episodes. And there's also a place for you to share your feedback with me. And so I would love to hear from you in terms of things that you think are going really well, things that I can change or improve upon. So you're welcome to also take advantage of that resource, okay? So with that said, thank you so much for your attention over the last few months. I am excited to return to you on January 5th with the 7th episode, where we will be covering part 1 of Team Essentials. However, in the meantime, whatever it is that you celebrate during the month of December, during this traditional holiday season, I wish you well. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Merry Festivus, Happy Winter Solstice. Please have a wonderful holiday. And I look forward to us coming back on Wednesday, January 5th with episode number 7. So I will see you then. And so thank you so much for listening and have a great month. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Things My Boss Never Told Me. Before you go, please make sure that you like and subscribe down below. Also, I included a few recommended videos for you to check out. Thank me later.